wish in New Zealand to have a Steiner qualification, to be able to do the curriculum from kindergarten right through to class 12, and have that equivalence at level, at grade 12, through grade 12, into university. And we then spent about 18 months working on 3 qualifications, one for grade 10, one for grade 11, and one for grade 12. And we sent this application into the New Zealand Qualification Authority, and they approved it. So our New Zealand Certificate of Steiner Education sits on this national government framework alongside the state qualification, NCEA. Yeah? So they have equivalents there in New Zealand. And it means that the students in the Waldorf schools in New Zealand can go through a full Waldorf curriculum. They don't have to do IGCSEs or Cambridge. We do our own assessments. We train the teachers to do that. We have exams that are external to the school, and these students go to university. And we've now had 12 years of students going through universities and doing very well. The universities give us data, and I've given this data to Linda and Shashad, and they'll possibly share some of this with you. But the students in all the schools generally do very well in universities because they are very well-rounded, developed young people. It's part of what all of curriculum gives. And by the time they reach the sort of academic aspect in the high school, they are really able to achieve very high grades. And I think your IGCSE students have been doing that here anyway. So that was New Zealand. And then we were invited, I was invited to go to Germany, to Kassel, because in Europe there was no Waldorf Steiner qualification that was recognized. In Germany, for instance, they do the Waldorf curriculum, class 12, and then they do the Abitur, 13th year, where the students get equivalence in the year after they finish their schooling. And in Austria it's the same, and in Switzerland. So the schools, the Waldorf schools and the Steiner schools in Europe were very interested in our qualification because there was nothing else anywhere in the world. And so I was invited in 2014 to attend this conference, and I met with many schools and was invited to go to the UK. We have 6 schools now in the UK doing this, not doing GCSEs any longer, or A-levels. And in Germany we have 4 schools now, in Austria we have 5 schools. So schools are really wanting to take this up because it's becoming an international qualification. And universities now around the world are accepting it. So in the UK, for instance, all universities, including the Russell Group, which is this very high group, Oxford, Cambridge, York, Glasgow, these are all part of this higher level, and we have students in all these universities straight in with the CSE, because it has equivalence now for universities in Germany, in Switzerland, we have recognition, in Ireland we have recognition, in Malaysia we have recognition for this now, for all universities in Malaysia. So it's really moving, which is great. And yesterday we were in Delhi, we flew to Delhi yesterday, came back very early hours this morning to meet with the Association of Indian Universities. It's quite a high up land there, and we have to answer some more questions, but it is very likely they will get approval here in India for all universities to accept our qualification. And we're hoping by the end of August we will be able to say we have this now. So it's getting closer, not yet, but nearly. And it's great that your school are doing IGCSEs, So your students have something now, but when we get recognition from the universities here, then your school will not need to do IGCSEs. Yeah? And we talked a lot yesterday about the Association of Indian Universities will write to all the universities in India, giving them the letter confirming that this NZCSE is recognition. Okay? And this will be a really good thing. There are a number of schools now here in India that are keen to start, and it will mean that the teachers can work together, and this is a really good thing. Physics teachers have time online together, or English teachers, or additional language teachers, biology teachers, and this is a very good thing for teachers not to just be in their own school and have just one teacher, but to have colleagues who are doing similar things and they can discuss this very good professional development. And that's something that will start to happen in this school once we get this accreditation. I'm giving you a very quick summary of where we are. But really the qualification is for grade 10. There's one qualification, one for grade 11 and one for grade 12. And the students over each year, they need to gather points from each of their subjects. And these points then generate a certificate and an achieved with merit or achieved with excellence level. So the students can achieve at these different levels. And we have built quite a robust database. Each student then has a login and they can see how they're progressing with their points and their grades. And at the end of each year, they get a certificate with the New Zealand government logo on it and our logo with the student's name and the achievement level. And then a record of achievement, which is a breakdown of everything that they've done, they've achieved and at what level. And this is something we talked to the AIU yesterday about, and they were very happy with this. So that, oh, okay, thank you. I don't have to talk so much, maybe I can just flick through this, because it just gives you a bit more detail of the three levels, and then we can have some questions and some discussion if there's something that's not clear. Does that sound okay? I'm going to sit down. Now, this one here? That one there? Okay. So, this is what the qualification is called. This is actually not the correct PowerPoint. This is the PowerPoint it's okay. This is the PowerPoint that I sent to AIU, and I'm not sure. I can just look at some of this with you. Yeah.
Karen, you have 20 minutes.
No, more than that.
It's just that some of this is not so. Anyway, it's okay. So they're secondary qualifications, and they have equivalence class 10, grade 10, class 11, grade 11, and class 12, grade 12 in India, and they're recognised, as I've said, by New Zealand. Can you see it? And they're recognised by the New Zealand Qualification Authority, which is this body in New Zealand that gives equivalence to all qualifications, actually. And we're listed on this New Zealand Qualification and Credentials Framework, all three of these qualifications. And we have every 5 years, our organisation goes through this quality assurance review, as all qualifications to one framework. They're reviewed. So our regulator is the New Zealand Qualification Authority. Level 1, 2 and 3, class F. They provide a pathway to university. In Europe, for instance, we don't actually need to have recognition by different governments because there is what we call a Lisbon Recognition Convention Agreement that allows for, that requires that signatory countries and students applying to a university, let's say from New Zealand to England to the UK, have by right, they are allowed to apply. This doesn't apply to India. India is not part of this Lisbon Recognition Convention agreement, and that's why we're having this process with the Association of Indian Universities, because we want to have this equivalence approval so that when your students graduate, they don't need to worry that they will be able to go to the university they choose to go to. So that's why we're doing this process with AIU now. So the owners and the managers of the Steiner Education Development Trust, and this was the trust that we formed to oversee and manage and develop this qualification. They're a not-for-profit organisation, and my role is I work for them now, and they are my board. The key roles in our organisation, we have 15, 16 people that we employ now around the world. We have general manager, I'm the education director, and then my colleague is the moderation coordinator director. We've been there for a long time, but we have lots of other people who have other roles, examiners, writers, and markers. We also have country managers. So in the UK, we have someone who manages and works with all the schools and coordinates. We have this in Switzerland and in Germany and in Austria, and we will need to have that here. It's important that when this qualification is in a country, that it takes on the cultural aspects of that country. It's not just something that's imported. The qualification and the framework is imported from New Zealand, but the cultural aspects of the curriculum and how things are taught and the additional languages, that needs to have the flavour of India here. And so we will look to find somebody here in India who will take on this role. I work with these country managers from New Zealand, and I visit the schools once a year, mostly. But this is a very important aspect of this qualification. It's not just that we sort of pull strings from New Zealand. There needs to be somebody here who is qualified to help train teachers in our time of assessment, who can meet with government officials if need be, who can visit schools, who can talk to parents. So this will be a very important role, but we will look to find somebody to do this at some point. So those are the key roles. And we also have in New Zealand, and they're all New Zealand based, a qualification committee. It's an academic committee. And this group are really responsible for the development of the learning outcomes and the implementation of new learning outcomes. So the qualifications are based on learning outcomes that the students take. That is the type of assessment they take. And this committee oversees the development of these qualifications. So we try to develop about 15–20% each year so that they're new and living assessments and they're not just the same old assessments each year. And this qualification committee is also independent of the Steiner Education Development Trust and NZQA. So it's an independent body. when a school wants to become part of this qualification, these are the sorts of things we look for and we would want to see teachers have within the school. So that the school has appraisal processes and professional development processes and policies. There's a lot of sort of rigor around these things. But this is also important for NZQA, the New Zealand Qualification Authority, but it's also a requirement of AIU. Registered teachers, trained teachers, and so on, that they have relevant teaching qualifications and experience at the subject that they're going to teach, and so on. And then part of the process is that the school, and they're doing that now, they consult and they talk with their school community, and a timeline then is agreed for when this will be implemented, with which class, and of course those parents of that class particularly need to really be supportive of this. And then we undertake a teacher training. We train the teachers, we prepare the teachers for their first year to implement the CSE at level 1, grade 10. And part of that training is to establish an assessment plan for the year, which we then moderate. And this is a new thing for many Waldorf schools, this moderation. And it means that when a teacher teaches a subject, or teaches a block perhaps, they would, of course, have their teaching, their planning. They would have very clear guidelines around what kind of assessments they're going to do and when. And the students are also informed that we're going to do this main lesson block on projective geometry or something, let's say, or surveying. This is the assessment. We're going to expect 2 assessments towards, one in the middle of the lesson and one at the end, and one will be a test and one will be a verbal presentation. So the students are very clear before they even start that they're going to, what they're going to learn about, what the focus is, and what kind of assessment and when. So this is really good because it gives transparency, and the students can't say, oh, well, I didn't know there was an assignment or an assessment. And parents also know this is what the assessments are and when they come. This assessment plan, we do this for every subject, for class grade 10, grade 11 and grade 12. And it means that the school can make sure that the assessments across the course of that last year are spread well. That the students are not in class 11 suddenly having to do 5 essays in 1 week or just before holidays. So the kind of assessments can be spread, yeah? And this is much better for the students. They don't need to do 5 essays in 1 week. This is too much. They don't need that. They need to learn how to write an essay. And of course they do many of those, but not compacted, yeah? So the assessment plan gives this really good overview of what's happening for class 10, class 11, class 12. And then in New Zealand, we look at every school's assessment plan. Once the school has put their assessment plan together, they send that to us, and we look at it, and then we say we want to look at this, 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 and this. So we, through the year, we sample some of the assessments that the teachers have done, and we give the teachers feedback. Yeah? And we do that through a process called moderation. So the teacher would teach their surveying, they would mark the students' work, do the assessment, they would mark the students' work, and then they would send probably 6 or 8 samples of the students, this block, to us for us to look at. And then we would give feedback to Shagri. And we'd say, we can see why you've given this student achieved, why this student has got excellence, because it is evidence-based assessment. It's very clear. Or we might say, well, actually this student is more here, not there. And so the school has to wait. It's a very short turnaround, but the school waits until we've externally moderated, we've confirmed the grades, and then they're handed on to the students. And this process allows us to be consistent. Consistency between the subjects in the school, so the students are getting a consistent approach to their assessment and their feedback, and it allows consistency between schools and between countries. Because what my job and what we have to do is to make sure that what happens here, what happens in West London in the school or in Germany, is the same equivalence for that learning outcome. Does that make sense? So there is this consistency that starts to happen for the students across all these schools. Shall I just pause for a minute because I'm giving you a lot of info quite quickly. Are there any questions at this point, and then we can move on? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to know if this assessment was only for grade 10 or it will start early so that it means we are very aware of it.
It starts in class 10, grade 10, grade 11 and grade 12, so it's a 3-year qualification pathway. Some schools have done some learning outcomes in class 9, grade 9, and then this is possible. This is possible that they put them in a bank, and then when the students come into class 10, they add them to these individual students' records. Because in grade 10, there are foundation mathematics and foundation literacy, reading and writing, that are benchmarks that are equivalent here in India and in other countries. And the students need to gain more points in grade 10. And so some schools do some of these in grade 9 at the latter part of grade 9. This could be a helpful thing. Does that answer your question?
I'm just thinking that because they have to be prepared for grade 10.
Sorry?
As they have to be prepared for grade 10.
Yes.
Let's start with the
Yes.
The whole
Yes, of course.
the whole approach to assessing, happens over the years without their knowledge. Now here they become aware of it. And like Karen said, at Inodai we are already doing 3 subjects of Waldorf in grade 9. Of course we have not done the assessment, maybe now we can do it as per your requirement. But we have, since 2 years we have already been doing, one is geomorphology, which Sharmi does, and projective geometry. No, what's that? Descriptive geometry. And history of art, which I do along with one of our teachers. So we don't want to leave the Waldorf behind. So in grade 10, all the parents get worried, oh now IGCSE this, that. So we want to take away that worry from the parents. So we have New Zealand board. So that will make life of the children easy, because they will be more better equipped, you can say, to do what they are doing. So you don't need a special kind of training for them. Already they do certain things in a certain manner.
And the subjects will be like...
Yes, she talked about the subject.
Yes, so we'll come to the subjects. And, yes. Yes. Yes, of course. Yes. Yes.
And somebody gets the feedback on the sample.
Correct.
But based on that sample, how the larger kind of set gets reassessed? Is that a part of the process, or how the learning of moderation process gets applied to all the children? Because your feedback has come only for the samples, but then how it gets
Yeah. So good question. So choose grade 10 maths. We're going to sample 3, all the assessments in that year. And if we see that the teacher is marking too high for everything, or too low, then we would give feedback to the school and we would give more training or support. But we would know immediately that this teacher is not assessing at the right level or hasn't perhaps understood the language that is needed to describe and achieve. Yeah? So we monitor this all the time. We have a team of people who do this for all the English-speaking schools, and we have 7 people who do this for the German-speaking schools.
So this is, the operation is essentially in a way assessment of teachers, how they are implementing, rather than correcting the grades or marks for the students.
Yes. The teachers do the grades and the marks for the students, and we give feedback to the teachers on those grades. Yeah? If, however, there was a big discrepancy, so let's say the teacher gave excellence to every student, this would be not usual. You know, there's a bell curve, a normal bell curve of assessment with a proportion of perhaps below the average, then there's sort of a bigger middle group, and then usually, sometimes not, but usually there's a higher group within a cohort class. And so we look at this. So if a teacher gave everybody excellence, we would look very carefully. Or if they failed everybody, that would also be a big concern. We might say, actually no, this needs to be here, and the student's grade could be changed then. But it's just the checking for the teacher.
Can we just
Final assessments.
Sorry?
Do we mean like the final assessments?
So we have handbooks for levels of grade 10, 11 or 12 with all the learning outcomes, with the assessment criteria. And the assessment criteria covers what is achieved, merit and excellence. And the teacher writes a marking sheet and a student study guide. That's the teacher's bit of work. And that's what we help them with. And we have also lots on our database the teachers can use. But the marking sheet is what identifies the evidence to confirm the student is achieved or achieved with merit. So it's how the teachers mark against the criteria that is the critical bit, and that's what we train the teachers to do.
Yeah, and the training, just to let you all know, it started last year already. We have had 2 sessions. One KADAM had come last year in March, and then one we had online, and the third one we are having from Monday. So that will go on.
Yes.
What is the entire timeline for the implementation of this process?
Yes.
Would it take like a year, or even if you could just mention that?
So it can happen within a short time with online sessions of support for the teachers. Usually the training is 3 or 4 days, but the school has already started, as this school has, for some years now. I've come for a number of years and I've worked with the teachers, and they are becoming familiar with this approach and training them to assess within their own subject. So it can be quite a short time, but the whole process. Yeah.
Does this also take care of certain curriculum or like?
Yes. I mean, we're really waiting now for AIU to confirm the equivalence of the qualification, and then we can give confidence to you and to the students that this has equivalence, and we really now, the school wants to start it. So that's where we're going, and we hope end of August maybe we will know.
So you mentioned the cultural aspect of it will vary from country to country.
Yes.
But academically, subjects like maths, science,
Yes.
will there be uniformity as per curriculum? Because at the lower grades we are quite fluid.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
at the higher grades, I'd like to know if there is any standard.
At the high grades there is conformity. The maths is maths, in Germany and in the UK here, that is the same. The cultural things will be the history, the stories, the legends, all of those sorts of things that will be brought in. Additional languages will be required here that are not required in New Zealand, and so on. In Germany they have other requirements. So we found that each country has slightly different requirements from a country perspective or a cultural perspective, and we are able to adjust the qualification to the unique needs, but there is this equivalent conformity around the qualification.
But there is a standardization in these countries already.
Correct. Correct. So you have a question, and then I'll go on, and you may have some more. Yes.
So grade 10 and 12 are internal assessments is what I understand. I mean the teacher internally assesses the students?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And we do also, and I'll come to that, we have an external exam week for grade 12, and we would look to have something for grade 10, so that this has equivalence here in India. These two points are what is important for Indian schools and universities. So we already have that in grade 12, and an exam week, and we would look to have possibly some external exams for the school, but they would still be exams. We have exam writers in New Zealand. There would be Waldorf exams that we would send to the schools. The schools would have the students sit the exams in exam conditions. They would be sent back to us and so on. And this is quite good on the students' record of achievements, that the universities see they have sat in some external exams. This is a very helpful thing. Offshore delivery, I think I've covered that. Formal teaching, I've talked about that. We wanted to make sure that it is formal teaching, and that's a requirement here in India, that it is a formal teaching program that's offered, and that we don't offer it online. At this point, it's not. We do that a bit in New Zealand and Australia between our countries, but that would not happen here at this point. We also have, when we developed this qualification, we also applied directly to the universities in New Zealand, and we also have this pathway addendum starting, admissions at equivalent level. So in New Zealand, the International Baccalaureate and the Cambridge exams, they don't sit on this New Zealand qualification framework. We sit there with the state qualification. They have this pathway, and we do too. So in New Zealand, for this qualification, we have two paths of recognition. And having this with universities in New Zealand is very good for the universities here, because these bodies talk to one another, and internationally they have agreements about equivalence. So because we have equivalence at level 3 in New Zealand universities, then we can gain that here. Very helpful. I've talked about Lisbon. The teaching program, so that's really something that, as a Waldorf school, is something that the schools do anyway. They are continually developing and looking at the holistic aspects of the curriculum and the program, and this aligns actually very well with the new curriculum policy that the Indian government has recently put out, the NEP. Yeah. And we did some work on this to see where these overlap a little bit in terms of philosophy and vision and holistic approach. This integrated approach is what the Indian Education Department now want for the Indian state schools, and they also are looking to have this for foreign schools. And so we've just started to do some work on this, but there is this very good alignment already, which is helpful. So, I don't know if we need to go through all the accredited provider requirements. The accredited provider is the school. Yeah? If your school becomes part of our board, then your school would become an accredited provider. And these are the sorts of things we look at when we sign a school up to take us on. We need to make sure that the school has processes in place to make sure that the qualification will be managed and overseen well. And then there are staff selection and appraisal. I mentioned that processes in place, student entry, guidance support for students. As an important part as they become senior students, they need guidance around where they want to focus in terms of their learning. This is really important. So I think I've covered those things about accredited provider, students, feedback. So that's part of what we want the schools to do, is to give students and parents regular updates, even though they can do it online in parent meetings, that parents are informed about how students are doing, how their students are doing, progress and so on. And this is the level 1, so this is grade 10. So at the moment, Hindi would definitely be an additional language, and that would most likely be something they would need to choose. And I think here from class 9, the students can choose an additional language going through to grade 12. At the moment, that was something we discussed with AIU, that in New Zealand, the history and the geography, moral studies and so on, are all under the heading of social sciences. I think they used to be here in India, and now they've separated out. And it may be that we separate these out as separate subjects. They sit there as learning outcomes, as separate subjects, but the way we have them clustered for the overview, they are together under social sciences, but we can split this out, it's not a problem. And as I mentioned, the students then also need to achieve these 5 minimum points in English literacy and numeracy. And when it says UE, this is University Entrance Numeracy. This is a requirement that at grade 10, they've already met the lower level for university. This is grade 11, level 2. And you'll see that students must also achieve then 4 points in literacy, writing, reading, and 9 points in numeracy. That is actually the university entrance level, is actually met at grade 11, the requirement to enter university. But for some, it depends on what course. So health sciences, medical, they will need to do more. Veterinary studies, engineering, they will need to do more. But this will give already a pathway for some courses at university. Then they move on to grade 12, level 3. And we have these core subjects that every student needs to do, which is the Class 12 project, which is an independent research project that runs across a year. And universities really like to see this, because the students are in grade 12 really able to work independently. They're really able to take on a project, something that they are interested and passionate about. It's quite a big process. They have to find somebody to oversee the work. They have to write an essay and they can elect to be assessed at a level 2, a level 3 or a level 4. And the level 4 is actually first year university entrance. And many water schools actually ask to be assessed at that level. And university is very impressed to see that already at the end of grade 12, students are able to work independently, to do a project for a year is quite a thing, even for us. Stick with it, to have your aims and stick with it, and really it's a quite a robust thing. And in New Zealand and Australia, many of our students get grants and get straight into university just on this independent research project. So this is something that every student in grade 12 will do. They all do the humanities, the sciences and the arts. Now those really are the main lessons. These are the Waldorf main lessons. And then in grade 12, the students can elect to do more of mathematics or English or art, depending on where their leaning is for where they want to move on to university. Because they need to do more specialization to get the depth and the coverage so that when they get to university they will be able to practice it. And so the universities want to see that calculus, statistics, or physics, or whatever it is, if a student wants to do medical studies, they will need to do 9 points in 3 separate subjects. And that will give them the confidence required for the university. Student assessment, I think I've covered that. It's just summarising what I've already said. These are the kinds of assessments that are used, and really it's for the school and the teacher to choose how they assess. We don't say you have to do a test or you have to do an essay. So the teachers can decide what kind of assessment they want to use. Some of the art is often portfolio, some of the sciences actually, there are some portfolios that the students collect over the course of the year and then present them in the oral presentations, tests, examinations and so on. Talked about the moderation of it. And this is our external, it's external to the school, the exam week for grade 12. So at the moment we do that concurrently through all the schools, all do the exam week at the same time around the world. And these exams, as I've mentioned, are written in New Zealand. We send them to school. The school sets the conditions for exam that they're sent back, and the students can choose which exams they want to take. That's something we will talk further with about AIU. They may want to see that every student does 4 or 5 exams, and if that's the case, then we can do this. But at the moment, it is not compulsory. But it may well be something that we have to do here. That students will sit at least 3 external exams, but they are external to the school, not to the Senate board. Grades. So the students, as I've mentioned, can achieve their learning outcome, achieve merit and excellence, or not achieve. They can not achieve grade. And then the students can, at the end of the year when they get their certificate, they can achieve it with highly commended or with distinction. And this is just a breakdown of points. They need 30 points more at merit and excellence at level 1, 2, and 35 points of merit and excellence at level 3 to get a highly commended, an overall higher certificate, and then with distinction, 30 points, 30, and then 35 at excellence. And many students are able to achieve this. But even if they don't get a highly commended or a distinction certificate, they can still go to university, as long as they've met the university entrance. But they may not, the university may say, we want you to achieve it at grade 12 with distinction if you want to do medical studies. And you will need to do physics and mathematics. And they often will say, they'll give a conditional offer to the university, and then they will make that, they confirm that once the student has their final grades. And that's often how universities work. some of the work that we started to do around aligning to the National Education Policy for India for 2020, where there is this overlapping of the principles, you could say, that sit behind what pedagogy aims to do and wants to develop in the slower approach in the lower school, and the focus in kindergarten, and then there's more academic is coming into the thinking in the high school. And this is very much in line with this NEP policy that the Indian government are now implementing. And I guess over the next few years they will want to start to see that in all schools in India. There's a bit more of that, the holistic approach. And I think they're very good ideas. It's very good to have this sort of vision for education that's similar in age. They're referring to this, the curriculum and the pedagogical structure for the different age groups, which is age appropriate, which is great to see. The government really wanting this now for all children in India. And this is particularly this integrated learning approach. Holistic background. So this is just the beginning of this. We'll probably have to do some more work. And the flexibility, and I think that's something that all the schools are very good at doing, because this flexibility within the curriculum, how they deliver something to a particular group of students to really meet the needs of the students. The teachers know the children, and they really have this ability to apply the way they deliver it to the pupils. And then the quality assurance. So every 3 years we do a quality assurance review, assessment review of each of the schools to ensure that the school is really keeping up with all the structures they need. This NZCEC really puts a quality system into the high school, and we are in regular contact with that. But we have this more formal review every 3 years, and these are some of our key performance indicators, and we annually survey the students. It's an online thing that the students do, and for all the schools that are doing this qualification, the qualifications committee sends it out. We survey both northern and southern hemisphere students and teachers. We haven't started surveying parents yet, but we probably will have to. But it's actually quite good to get this independent feedback each year. And we of course can see which school, but the students are not identified. And we don't know which students they've got, but it gives us good feedback on the students' experience from being in that school, whether it's being administered well, whether the teachers, sometimes students say all sorts of things, and that's okay, but it gives a good feeling for the quality of what is happening. And we share that then with the school, just that. So we do that, and that's happening now actually for the northern hemisphere schools. We're doing that for the UK and the European schools. I hope that's given you a bit of an overview of what the qualification is, and maybe we can just have some questions. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So I heard you talk about the New Zealand universities and
Yes.
also Australia and UK. What about the US? Is there any?
So we've not had any schools take this up, so we've not started any approach in the US. But we have some students from the UK who've got into US universities.
So is there a certain criteria there where they need to fulfill to get into US universities?
In the US it's much easier to get into universities because they have an open entry. As long as you have equivalence in your own country, you get taken into an intake first year, and then you get sort of funneled into different courses. We have a list of all the universities internationally that are accepting students, and we will update this and I will send this to the school here. Maybe they can share that with you. So at the moment, apart from Edinburgh University in Scotland, all the universities in the UK, including, as I said, we have 5 students in Oxford at the moment and 3 in Cambridge, straight in with the CSE. So in the UK we have listed with UCAS. You may know this government. So the NZCSE is listed there now. We had that listed last year. So when students apply in the UK, they just click on, they go to the drop box and they click on NZCSE. So this is really good. And I'm hoping that AIU will let us do that as well. Once they approve it here, it would be great for all the students to be able to click on something with the name of the qualification, not just other. Often they just have this other box. So that's something we will need to work on in the future. But many universities internationally now. We have recognition in Switzerland, in Malaysia, in Ireland, in the UK, in Queensland in Australia, and in Australia we have to do it state by state. That's the process, and we have recognition of course in New Zealand. And hopefully soon recognition in India. Yes. That would be great. Yes.
That application is due in August, if that's
They said July end, the committee will meet, the next committee meeting will be in July. Then they'll let us know. But in August there is a conference of all the boards in India. 66 he said, there are some 66 boards in India. So and he proposed to invite and foreign boards, 66 foreign boards.
Grade 10 okay or grade 2?
No, it will be till grade 12 because the program is the 3-year program, 10, 11, 12. So if we get the recognition, then maybe class 10, if they want to move to class 11, they can go outside. That was a talk that we had
We
yesterday.
discussed that. If a student wants to leave at the end of class 10, grade 10, they need to have this external exam here so that they can transition to a
Another
regular
board.
school or another board. So we want them to have that opportunity if they want to. We want them to stay, but they need to feel, and you need to feel, there is this flexibility if a student or parents want this. But I don't know whether I'll be able to come back in August, but we'll see.
let's say this does happen right in August, right?
Yes.
Then you're saying we can immediately, the school is,
Now this class 9,
yes,
and your child is in class 9.
Yes.
Yeah. So when she goes into class 10, we will start the Waldorf curriculum.
We would look to start it the following year.
Yeah, 25, 26, we are looking at 25, 26 to start
See, the other thing is, last year itself, through the good offices of KADAM, and she took it to their board, we have established here that children who have appeared for the IGCSE, which is a class 10 exam, is equivalent to level 1 assessment of SEDT. So if this thing comes through in August or whenever it comes through, and the children of class 9 will appear for the IGCSE, but that will be taken as equivalent to level 1, and they can still go into level 2 and 3 of Waldorf, of silent education. And one of the things that she just now mentioned is, some of the subjects which we have already done in class 9, Waldorf, are bankable. So that was one of the things which I think Karen had there to say that they are already doing these things. So that bankable component will be utilized.
And we wanted to make it as smooth as possible for this first class once we get approval that there's a good transition and they can use their IGCSEs as a confirmation that they meet the levels, because class 11 is a much higher level in terms of work anyway, regardless of what qualifications students are doing. Is that an answer?
Class 10 में the child is leaving when the chance it becomes external examination.
So yesterday the talk was that same thing, that class 10. So that is why Karen said that they will give us the question papers and have an exam for class 10. So just in case the child, that's what she just
So
mentioned.
it's an external,
External
the
exam.
question papers will come from the board, from outside.
Yeah.
We won't set the papers. It's like all the other boards are doing.
Assessment will be done internally.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
Moderated
external,
by them.
it's external to the school because the teachers don't see it and they don't mark it. Yeah. So
And more the other
we mark it in New Zealand. We have contracted exam writers and markers, and they do this for the state schools as well as our system in New Zealand. So it would be independent of the school, and then we can put on their final record of achievement that this is external exam for, and AIU are quite happy with this. We discuss this.
The Indian colleges will recognize it as
Once AIU recognizes, it goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere. The AIU
They will send it to all the universities.
yes, they will send it to universities and it will be recognised. And he said that's what they do and that won't be a problem.
And then like when you apply in grade 11 outside, then you get one provisional admission thing. And then in the meanwhile you go and apply in the university and the university will try and find out and then you get the reply that your admission is confirmed. For all outside boards that happens.
That's the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why AIU write to all the universities. Once a board is, a foreign board is approved, they have a letter that goes to all the universities and then they know. He said sometimes they forget and he gets a call from a university saying, what about this board? And then he reminds them or sends the letter again. They do all of that. And that's why it's so slow. We need to have this AIU seal of approval. Yes. Yes.
So my question is to Madhu that for current 7 and 8, if this goes through in August, then will IGCSE stop and we only have Waldorf or the
That's for
option?
class 9.
No, I'm asking for 7 and 8.
Yes, it will.
I
We are not going to have.
7 and 8.
We will not, at the moment, we are not thinking of having a parallel qualification.
Yeah,
So there's one stream you can choose to go IGCSE and the other.
No, we can't afford
We
it.
will mainly
What about, let's say for level 2 and level 3, the teachers or how that is going?
See, the training is happening. They are all subject experts. We have physics and history just went away, and chemistry, biology, literature. But the main core subjects we have all. And like elective if somebody wants to take up technology, ICT, then we'll have to employ somebody. So some of the subjects we may need teachers if the children need to do that. Otherwise, the core subjects we are all there.
Are there any other questions? I hope you're not too worried about this. Yes.
So, the way it is my understanding of admissions in the universities post level 1, that is 10 and 12 until here is based on respective boards' marks, and there are merit lists that go through, and then based on child score, the university or the junior college or the
Yes.
college accept the child.
Yes.
Now, the assessment framework that you have as part of New Zealand, there are points and
Yeah.
grades, which, how do we make it compatible? Is there any
So that's a very good question and something we discussed yesterday at the meeting. So what we do this in Germany. So we have our point system and we have a paper that we've put together which sets out the NZCSE points to the German equivalent points. So when the student applies to German universities, the university can see, this is what an equivalent document. We will do the same for here, for England. And I thought I had one here for the UK GCSE and A-levels, but maybe I didn't send it. So we've done it in each country, and we will need to do that for here.
We have here like those credit points.
Yes. Yeah, so we put a little document together, so the universities are clear what it means in terms of points, credits.
As I was saying this morning, Karen, like the IGCSE exams, it gives you the letter grades which the Cambridge gives anyway.
Yes.
Along with it, they give something called PUM,
That's
percentage
right.
uniform marks, which
Yeah.
are taken as percentages.
Yeah.
Actually, the working out of the PUM is a very involved process. There are a lot of factors which they bring in. But for the Indian universities, it is like a percentage, which are marking. So they need that thing along with it. So it's only in India that they have a statement of marks with percentage uniform marks written over there.
But that is also
They ask for
only
the
the
They do. They do.
So we get that if the
And we
child
will
goes
do
out
that.
after
That's
10th
fine.
One by one.
We get that percentage if the child moves out after 10th grade.
Yes.
The percentage.
You will get it when you need it. So if a student leaves, of course they will need to have that so that where they go on to, they have that transparency in the school notes, etc. So we do that with all the schools because sometimes students in any school want to move on and they need something that's going to allow them to do that. They mustn't feel or be disadvantaged by being here. Actually, they're more advantaged. But it's reassuring for parents and I think for students as they get older that they know that they've got this piece of paper and absolutely we will ensure that that's there.
Apart from the mark that now in university, AIU was talking about, the New Zealand board is giving a whole sheet of record of achievements, and that's too much in details on what they have achieved over the year. That's very fascinating.
That's what goes to the university, a very detailed list of what they've achieved, at what level, what grade, what subject, and it gives the universities very good information. Yes.
You mentioned that there would be some external exams
Yes.
that the students would take. So, and papers being sent for assessment and stuff like that. So, would we get all the assessment by the time that universities and our colleges are ready for
Yes,
admission?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that would
We
be a long
design it
process.
that way. We
So
design our
it will-
academic year that way.
So every country that we work with, so Germany and Austria and the UK, all have different timelines for.
So we follow an
We
Indian.
will have to follow what happens here. So at the moment in Austria, we have 6 schools there. We have to get an apostille, so we print their certificate, we sign it, we have to get it approved by government. Then we send it in for grade 12. This has to be with the student by the 12th, before the 12th of July, because that's the closing date for universities. Yeah? So we know the coordinator in the country gives us this information, and for every country we have a different timeline and a slightly different process. Absolutely, yeah. And different states often have different dates as well. So, if the students want to apply to this state, they might have one date cut off for entry or applying, and somewhere else it may be somewhere else.
So is this an individual process or does this go to the school?
The school does this. We set this up with the school, and the school talk to the students and the parents of grade 12. And they know that the students are going to want to apply here and there. They're already supporting them in that process. Yeah. So there's a school, you don't have to do that.
Alright, so this would not require a stamp from our Indian board or would it?
No, no,
Then
because-
accepting it, if it's a college abroad, if they want us to.
So it will be listed, the AIU will list this board on their website. And then wherever the child applies, that university will find out. Like Bombay University will find out if children go to these colleges. They get, I just explained, they get a provisional certificate for admission. Then they apply to the university and then the university finds out and then you get the confirmation.
My concern is that all this would take time if it's Bombay University or Indian University. Everything takes so much time.
No, but if this AIU approves it, the AIU will send it to all the universities.
We will make sure that
Yeah.
the students are not disadvantaged. We've done this in a number of countries now.
We have waited so long for that.
It's quite a slow process here. We are aware of that, but they have said July, August we will hear, and then we will be able to get this thing moving. And then for the first class 12, the first grade 12, maybe your child in that class, you know, we will be at school and I will come also and speak with you in that year, and we will make sure that that really is a good, smooth transition for the students graduating for that first year, maybe for the first 2 years we do that, but we want to make sure that that is a good experience for you and for the students. So be rest assured, please. Good.
I would like to add something.
Yes.
So, a lot of questions that have been coming over the years to us in our office and at the back of the office, I should say, are related to whether we would be, or our teachers or a school would be ready to take up a new board like NZCSE, when would be implemented, what would we do, how would the process go. Now 6 years back when high school started, it was for the first time that we were taking up IGCSE, right? So we had to go through a similar process. It took 2 years for the teachers from grade 9 and 10 to understand how it works. The way NZCSE has LOs, what we call as learning objectives to achieve. IGCSE has something called AOs, right? In every subject we have 3 AOs, and the teachers have to understand what the AOs mean, and they have to set their papers according to the format given by these AOs, which is as per the IGCSEs, right? So we've studied it over these years, and we've been, when the first batch appeared for the exam, there was COVID, and the exams were cancelled. So that was quite worrisome, and we were told that now the children would get admissions based on their preliminary marks. Now the students who did go for those schools who were recognized, they were sure that their teachers had set papers accordingly, their assessments were correct. So the center that we go through had sent their papers, but they refused to take ours because we were supplements, we were candidates, we were external candidates for them. So what our students did, they went and approached different schools for admissions, and we were ready to give our set of preliminary papers for them to assess. They take interviews of these students, and they were absorbed in these different schools. After which, when the next set of IGCSE examinations happened, they had to reappear to get the official stamp from the IGCSE. But there was no question on their ability. Even the center where we appear for, Nahar, 2 of our students went to that school itself. So over these years, whatever KADAM is speaking about, an equivalence of that is already been happening since 6 years here. Our teachers, this year, our results have been, I would say, stunning. We've also had fantastic results last year.
Child getting A+ in all the subjects.
We've had 5 A stars in 3 subjects, 3 A stars in the next 3. So physics, chemistry, biology, Hindi, everywhere we've had this. Of course, maths was as high as 98%, or PUM as we may say. Obviously this batch had polarities. I mean, it had extremes of students, whereas the previous batch had the other extreme. So their Waldorf helped in a way that our teachers could accommodate both these sets. We saw the needs of the children, and it was for the first time that we see students who have appeared for core sciences, combined science, I mean 5 different options of sciences. It was quite tough for the teachers to set individual papers for every child. In sciences you have 9 papers. And we all were like quite upset with what is this, for every child. We had so many extra a lot of other things. But understanding Waldorf is not about assessments. They happen even right now wherever we've had schools, students going to popular schools in, around Andheri, Mumbai, since we are in this area, and first batch of students topped the grade 12 A-levels. After that, I know of Waldorf students currently whose admissions have gone past. The school has closed admissions, but because it is a Waldorf child with a particular set of results, they opened admission for him and they gave it to him. So our students from the previous batch who went for admissions somewhere else in India, it was Goa and in Delhi, these students came back to us, teacher, we don't know Waldorf is so well known. So I asked why? Because when I went to the school and they said that you're coming to Goa and you're from a Waldorf school, we just read that. And though our admissions at school has begun, it's already in the first week, we called them for an interview and they were ready to take it. So he said, Waldorf by itself, they understand the process of learning. We, apart from our academics, I can say our students also do woodwork. Yeah, they also do handwork. Yeah, can that be done in other schools? Yeah. So, as a mother and as an experienced Waldorf teacher for this year, or GCSE teacher, whatever you would call it, because we've gone through intense 6 years of different Waldorf conferences. Okay, and finally, like we only attended conferences. When will we actually implement it? And I think the time has come. Right? So, this kind of things which happen back office, which probably all are not better. I can say with confidence we went through one system, and as she said it, probably you all are apprehensive, but for us we feel it's very doable.
And actually, it's very good that they've been through this process with the IGCSE, because it's already given them a framework that we can build on. Yeah? It's actually harder when the Waldorf school hasn't had anything. Yeah? So this is actually very good. And they're great teachers to work with, and they're picking things up. And we feel very positive about it. And I hope you will do too.
I have something to ask in this based on what she said right now. Like since 6 years we have been doing, you all have gone through the processes. I'm sure and confident about that the school may adapt, the teachers of the school may adapt to all the processes of what the New Zealand curriculum takes. But in India currently right now, we know that different boards do exist, and apart from the school, the students do need that backup, maybe in terms of external support. Not every parent is equipped to do the subjects well. Whereas the children, we have tuitions. Let's put it across very early, and the tuitions. So for this board, I don't know if there are teachers going to be available. So how the children are going to get that external support, apart from whatever the school will do, if the teachers will do their best and the school will do their best. But what about the external help that the children?
I think not the students, but the teachers need support. We need external teachers.
The children don't, because see, our teachers, most of them are, that they will, if they find that a child needs help, they sit after school also, even in the lower grades. So there is no, and the girl who's got all the A stars, she has not been for any tuition. So it is all the work of the school and the child herself who works. So you wouldn't need. I feel, I have always felt since long, that if we send the children for tuitions, it is an insult to the school. That means something good is not happening in school.
Yeah, like having my daughter being an example, right? The teacher themselves identified, so this is coming from as a parent, right? So the teacher identifies that the child is lagging behind, and by itself the teacher, and this happened during COVID, right?
Yeah.
And they were doing it online. I mean, I really have deep appreciation for the teachers to do that.
Additionally, I'll say one more thing since you asked the question. We've kept it that way. We don't send for tuitions, but whether we say that or not, parents do send their children to tuition. Then I realized one thing. What I told many parents who came and said, sir, you said that this one tuition, but then we are all very nervous and this is happening, that's happening. As she was saying, they have to appear for a particular type of exams where there is so much emphasis on how the information is to be brought out so that they get marks. So what I said was, look, in the school the child learns. Send him or her to tuitions to learn how to score marks. If that is your point, send. We will not teach in a way to score marks. We will teach the subject for learning. So if the child is learning the subject in the school, but he has to be given special training to be able to score marks, we don't have a separate set of teachers who will sit there and train the child to score marks. What I realized with IGCSE is that there's a lot of constraints and restraints on the teachers. How do you mark them? There are so many things. There are training programs which they have in marking. So the outside tuition teachers have all those things in their hands. They have that skill, and they will teach the child to write in a particular way, to put to this and that is important, and they score well. The learning has happened. If that is what is worrying you, you can still do that.
Yeah.
I won't be able to stop anybody because our teachers, we are not training them to bring up the children into how to score marks. We are not doing that. They can learn it from outside.
I'll give you an example to end this. That we, like this batch, we had students, some of them were highly competitive and high scorers, you know. For the teachers, we literally had to pull our hair out because we enter with a question paper for them, which they would finish early, and they would give us another set of questions that we walked out with. You know, so we had to be coming back. They were very curious. They wanted much more than where they were. So for them, their parents felt that they needed extra coaching because they were unable. One of them was not able to articulate well. Yes, and she needed exam preparation for him to score well. Instead of working on the skill that he needed, he worked on that, and obviously because they wanted more, they scored 98% in maths because they brought in questions from NEET, from JEE, from all the entrance exams because they wanted to do it. Yeah. Now, the current grade 9, one child, I would say particularly for my subject, she realized that to score well, she found out from the above student that I need to go through this kind of exam preparation to score well. And when she is able to, in class, when we are discussing, give complex analysis of questions. She has a high level of reasoning ability, and before I have even completed my question, many times her hand is up. She is able to move into that realm, but she didn't do well on a written paper. So the next term, because I read the paper and like, this is not you. So when she came back, she scored very high, which has never occurred in my paper. So I asked her, what did you do? What made that change? So she said, I went through exam preparation. Okay. However, when her answer sheet came and her parents came to me, she was very happy. I said her answers are in pointers. Okay. When she has the ability to analyze so well, to put it in the form of an essay, to give more substance to the matter, you're already restricting her. That these are the key words and these are what I'm supposed to use. I hope you all are getting the difference, right? So that is the level which when a child attains a 16, there's a benchmark that Steiner has kept, when there is a certain difference within the child, yeah, and the awakening of the eye. That appears when they write. Okay, when we write 1,000-letter essay or this, it's not restricted to only language, which is the beauty of Waldorf. You're able to use any subject, any way of assessing the child. Right? So all this leeway we get with Waldorf, where we are able to put it forth in a different format and not only information. Today with ChatGPT, information can be attained from anywhere. Right? So like Sir rightly said, for exam preparation, definitely you will have teachers who will help you out. But here the onus will come on us, because as soon as there is a child who needs extra help, Sir is just going to type a message that so and so teacher has to stay back, or feels responsible, or give extra time. Because now it's on us that why did the child, every time I enter a class I realize the assessment that we give them is not a reflection of their marks but of our teaching. That what did I go, why did the whole class score less in say this topic and not this topic? So I think
this Waldorf exam coming, if they take tuition from outside, it will only confuse them further.
Yes, we would not advise, and obviously as I said, we will take an extra step. If that is not workable, we look at what could be possible.
I think that's the right answer. If any student is not managing or not coping, then you need to speak to the teachers, and together with the teachers we will find what is needed to help this individual child. But class 11 and 12 students are much more able to do those sorts of things, and certainly writing essays, they will be taught how to do those sorts of things. I mean, they will have all the skills that any other student will have, and more. And more. Yeah. So don't worry. Don't worry. Yes.
So you have been talking to our school.
Yes.
For this board, right? So I want to know, in India currently, how many such schools are coming to get associated with you?
So at the moment, probably 3 or 4
In India.
in India. But we haven't specifically said it's your school. We're just approaching them for India, but there will be schools, more schools. So there are some
4 more schools who will be applying. One has applied, 2 will apply, and one is coming out to
Yeah.
So how many students do we have in all these schools put together?
They're quite small, but they vary. I think the largest, 350, 360 is the biggest.
No, I'm thinking from AI point of view.
350.
No, they see Finland had no school, and yet the board was recognized. Yeah. Yeah, but then there was no school, and it was already.
I agree. I'm just trying to figure out.
They have not asked us that question.
India takes time.
But that question they have not asked them how
They
many
haven't
schools.
asked, and every country, they've never asked that question. Never been an issue. In Malaysia,
No, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
It's just for my
Understanding.
So I'll give you an idea where I come from.
so there are 3 schools there are 2 schools with 350 pupils. The other 2 schools are a bit smaller, but there will be more schools who have already said in India, we want to join once you get the
See,
recognition.
where I'm coming from is I will tell you.
Yeah,
We all know how in India the mentality is, and you already mentioned that it's slow.
yeah,
The process has been slow.
yeah,
So the challenge here is a person who's thinking,
yeah,
he's got a very clear idea how many kids are involved.
yeah, yeah,
That is less or ठीक है, one example, the we made for one year.
yeah.
We don't want to try this.
I
That's where
understand
I
where
have
you're
to
coming
connect for my child.
I understand.
But that also happened
I
when
think-
IG came in. When my daughter passed class 10.
Yes,
That was the year
agreed.
when IG was just new.
Agreed.
So
It's all dependent
so
on the
always
parents
like-
whether they are willing to take the risk or not.
Yes.
Right? So
You
it's
took
all
the risk
subjective.
when you
Yeah.
put the child in the water.
Exactly.
I
So
think
I'm just trying to figure out what is
Yeah.
the situation forward.
I think
And how do we need to move?
with AIU that's not been a question, and I don't think it will be. I think what's moved this along is meeting them in person. That is what moves and opens doors. I mean, you can have online things. We've sent the application, but it's actually you have to meet them. They have to meet you. They have to hear it. They have to ask in-depth questions, and then you build a relationship. And actually, that's what's making the difference.
And definitely another thing that helps is the Waldorf education
Yeah,
is definitely a huge movement all over the world.
it is.
So if someone wants to research it and go, when you travel to any part of the world today, you will find schools which are like 50, 60 years old also.
That's right. That's right.
So we've seen 100 years schools in New York.
That's right.
Then again in Canada we've seen. So different setups and also that's one positive thing for
That's
us.
right. We have one school in Germany that has 2,500 pupils. Big school, 3 streams of classes, and I think in their teaching body there were 150 teachers. 80 teachers just for the high school. So, it can be done in a small school. We have one school in the UK that only has 22 students in their high school. In New Zealand, in my old school, we have 45 in each class. So anyway, maybe that's enough for today for all of you. It is a Saturday and you're on holiday. And, when I come next year, I will talk with you again, and the school will keep you informed of the progress and hopefully some good news soon. Sorry, you had another question before we finish.
If we get recognition over here, so what are we
Not
planning?
if, when.
So are we planning to continue the level 2, level 3, 11, 12
Yes,
year?
our dream is class 12.
Class
We don't want to release your children in class 10.
Yeah, and they need different, see, I was a principal of a college where the most difficult class to handle was class 11. Because in school they say, they restrict them and they say, you can't do this, go to college and do it. And when they come to college, they are so lost. They don't know what to do. And then the teachers, oh, they can't handle. So ideally, they shouldn't be out of school till class 12. Like in my times, it was class 11. My time, maybe class 11 we were in school.
So there may be a transition.
Yeah.
We'll work out a transition and we will talk to the parents of that class before we do anything. So it may not affect you if you have younger children, but with the transition classes, we will be in touch with you and talk with you, I promise. But thank you very today.